This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our special Housing Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, May 14th. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin our meeting, we would like to go over a few meeting guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website at a later date. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could submit written comments to the City of Kingston Clerk, Elisa Tinty, at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov, or by dropping them off the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-594-6120. I'll repeat this number again, but be aware that phone calls will not be received during the meeting. The number to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer for today's meeting, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Chair Rennie Scott Childress, committee members Alderman Don Tollerman and Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. And city staff, we have Michael Gillard. He will correct me. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health, and I now turn the floor over to Chairman Scott Childress.
Hello, everyone. This is Rennie Scott Childress. I'd like to remind everybody who's on this meeting tonight, before you speak, please introduce yourself, even if the person before you has said your name. We've had a number of issues with folks who are having difficulty sometimes telling people's voices apart. Either that, or we can all choose funny voices and make ourselves more distinct. I'll leave it up to you all. So this is, I think, the third meeting in the last month and a half or so of the Housing Subcommittee. We're exploring different aspects of housing in Kingston so that we can both develop a clear sense of what resources we have, what problems we're facing, and look for solutions. So we're trying to find out a lot of things in a kind of quick period of time here, because we know a lot of folks are very concerned about their housing. We know too that the folks who rent are not going to be able to have the protection of the eviction moratorium forever. We know too that there's going to be a lot of issues in terms of property owners who are having trouble paying their property tax. So we're looking for every solution we can find and every resource that we can use. To that end, we have two guests tonight. One of them is with us now, Michael Gilliard, and we hope Benjamin O'Shea will show up eventually. Michael Gilliard is the new Kingston Director of Housing Initiatives. So this is, to a certain extent, a get to know you meeting with Michael, because he stepped into what looks like a very exciting job, given the circumstances that we're facing. So I will first ask Michael to just give us a general background of yourself, Michael. You know, where are you coming from? What's your experience? How long have you lived in Kingston? And any other information, just of a very general sense, that would help us know you better. And then we'll open the floor to questions from Don Tollerman and Michelle Hirsch. Remembering that, like I said, this is a get to know you meeting. We're not going to get into any very specific details in terms of data that would require some sort of research at this point. We'll ask you for that later, but we want to give you preparation for that. All right, so with that said, Michael Gilliard, tell us about yourself, please?
Will do. Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone. It's nice to see you and meet you in this way. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to give you a brief overview of myself. My name is Michael Gilliard, as Rennie had said. I'm the Director of Housing Initiatives, newly minted, also serving in the capacity of the Executive Director of the Kingston City Land Bank. My experience spans over 15 years of work on the real estate development side, up and down the Eastern Seaboard, primarily focused in New York City, working on both the affordable and the market rate side for-profit and nonprofit organizations. I have served in executive roles for the production of nearly 3,500 units of housing and have worked on mixed-use properties, including all sorts of office buildings, structured parking, and other fascinating things that only I find fascinating. I welcome the opportunity for your questions to give you any more information about my background, and I'm very excited to be here in this role.
Great, thank you very much for that, Michael. Do you prefer Michael or Mike?
Mike's fine.
Mike, okay. All right, Don, Michelle, one of you want to get us started? Michelle Hirsch.
Hi, Michael. I'm very, very interested in hearing about like a production schedule for possibly for the land bank and how quickly we can get things moving, and if you could speak to that a bit. I know you just started, but so.
Oh, understood. And this will be my third week, and I've been learning more and more each week about the capacity of the Kingston City Land Bank and what may or may not be possible in terms of production and putting homes back on the city's tax roll. At this time, it would be a little bit premature for me to give some figures that I could stand behind about around how many homes outside of the, including the 36 that have been authorized by the council to be part of the consideration for the land bank's properties. I will say that what I have done so far is to narrow the focus in conjunction with Chair and other members of the board to 5 homes for what will be the first phase of homes to be acquired by the land bank. And that I believe is a reasonable, right-sized effort in this near term to focus on smaller pieces of the puzzle to put together, and those first 5 homes would be that.
Michael, this is Don. How did you choose the 5 homes?
I listened to my board chair. They had already done a fair amount of research before I got involved, and those 5 homes were also included in the Enterprise Community Funds grant, for which.
What's the criteria? Are they most, most ready or most, most valuable pieces of property?
I can't speak to the specific consideration for why those homes were chosen, other than what was relayed to me, which was it was believed those homes would be the 5 easiest homes to redevelop. Specifically, the first home that I think would probably be the lowest hanging fruit is the easiest of the 5 homes that I've been in.
So this is Don again. So what will be the sort of the path to be able to offer them to homeowners or someone to redevelop it?
Sure. I think the path is twofold. As you said, either someone will be purchasing the home themselves or someone will be redeveloping it. The first step along that pathway would be the acquisition of those homes from the city. Having acquired the homes, the land bank would then be in a position to evaluate whether or not to take on those homes as the developer itself or to work with third-party developers for the production of those homes. So acquiring would be stage 1.
And will that, I know that's been, this is Don again. I know that's been painful for the land bank over the last 2 years, the actual acquisition of the properties. What do you have in mind to be able to make that happen? Like what hurdles will you need to go through that were so much trouble in the last 2 years? I think everybody's confused as to why nothing has happened, including me.
And to a certain extent, I am as well, but I'm just uncovering new pieces of information every day. I think I can't speak to the impediments about the past 2 years. I do know on a transactional side, it's relatively straightforward. The November 2018 Resolution 072 stipulates the prices by which the properties may be conveyed, and upon conveyance of those funds by the land bank, the city will then transfer title. So that's maybe a esoteric way of just saying pay the amounts that are in the council resolution, the acquisition will take place.
Okay. Can I ask,
For which the land bank has those funds secured.
okay. If I can keep going, Rennie, is that okay? So for Rennie, Michelle, and Andrea, and whoever else is listening, actually, Michael and I had some experience together in, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago over in New York City. Michael was working at a company that I also worked with in my in a previous company, when I lived in New York City. So it was good seeing him again. He's great. I'm really excited for you to make hay here and make things happen. So
Thank you.
can you sort of tell us what's on your plate in a big picture? So executive director of land bank, number one. Number two is you want to try to develop housing, maybe affordable, maybe all types. Sort of, can you just, I kind of want to get a sense of everything that you'll be, hopefully pursuing and in this process.
Sure, this is Mike again. Sorry, hopefully I'm learning that by now. My priorities at this point are to work directly with the land bank and try to tackle that first. I understand within the role as Director of Housing Initiatives, that includes other facets of the real estate development cycle within the city of Kingston, but right now my priority is with the land bank.
Okay, so then, for instance, this is Don again. For instance, we hopefully will explore potential other properties to build on. You and I spoke about a couple. There may be housing authority opportunities for adding housing stock. There may be opportunities down at the waterfront as that develops. So I guess what I'm saying is, so you answered it. So your priority will be the land bank, but as other opportunities come up, you'll field them as best you can. Is that accurate?
This is Mike, that's correct.
Okay. Michelle, I think.
Sorry.
Yep, go ahead. Michelle Hirsch.
Yes, hi, Michelle Hirsch here. Michael, I was curious to know if the land bank has been filed as a not-for-profit status yet. And the second question is if the dispensation policy has been completed and approved.
I'm sorry, do you mean the disposition policy?
Yeah, disposition, sorry.
Okay.
This is Mike Gilliard. Yes, to both of those questions. The 501c3 status has been filed and accepted, so it is now organized officially as a nonprofit. And the disposition policy that exists on the website of the Kingston City Land Bank, which is kingstoncitylandbank.org, is the current disposition policy of the organization. Thanks for the question.
Go ahead, Don.
This is Don Tollerman. So Mike, can you speak to the environmental impact statement or the draft environmental impact statement that I think all of us want to get housing built here, and the mayor has spoken of the notion of creating a draft environmental impact statement to make projects shovel ready, make it easier for developers to come and look at a piece of land and say, okay, this has gone through seeker. This has, I see what I'm getting here, so now I can draw up a site plan and see how many units I can build and whether I can, make a reasonable return on my investment. So can you sort of, from your experience, how painful would that be, or what would the process be to make a site shovel ready? The seeker and the environmental impact statement, because I've never been through it.
This is Mike Gilliard. I'm scratching my chin in my head. It's a difficult process to generalize without specifics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's dealt with on a project by project basis in my experience. And the more that I get experience evaluating the circumstances that you're discussing specifically, I'll be able to provide you with more specific questions. The process of environmental review and EAS or EIS is different and circumstantial depending on the development.
Okay.
So I cannot generalize, unfortunately, but I look forward to exploring it further. Sorry,
Okay.
that's best
It's okay.
information.
And similarly, this is Don again, affordable housing dollars. You know, I know that that building affordable housing is a challenge, but there's also a lot of funds available, I guess, from the state. So would a developer bring on their own person to help them navigate that? Like Repco has affordable housing people that they know where to get the funding for that. Would you be involved in that, or is that up to a given developer to figure out?
This is Mike Gilliard again. I don't know. In my experience working with the development community, a proper real estate developer has those tools in-house to secure funding. Having said that, identifying funding sources that are only available through municipalities would be a resource of the municipality itself. So should that become available as an incentive for the development of affordable housing or other real estate development projects, I would certainly look to stay informed and contribute to the best of my abilities. But a developer should know what they need, and they should be able to ask educated questions accordingly and not rely on the city to put together their budget for financing.
Okay.
Michelle, any questions?
I'm good at this. This is Michelle Hirsch. I'm good at this time. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Michael, if I could then, this is Rennie Scott Childress here. So as you look around, I hear you saying that you're spending most of your time at this point working on the land bank. As far as you've seen, have you been able to figure out what kind of effects the current crisis has had on housing here in Kingston?
This is Mike Gilliard. Could you be more specific about the effects, meaning higher
Well, there's two
vacancy?
key areas that I'm thinking of. One is the number of people, renters, tenants, who are potentially facing difficulty paying their rent, whether they would be, in long-term housing or in something like federally supported or state-supported housing. And also folks who are, property owners. We've got a lot of property owners who are also paying relatively high part of their income for their housing. And so we're just curious, part of the issue that we continually face, let me rephrase this then, part of the issue we continually face is data, figuring out how many people are in what kind of categories, what kind of trouble they're facing, and then figuring out what kind of resources to put to those. So for example, we are going to be looking at this $440,000 in CARES funding. And if it turns out that we've only got, say, 10 families that are facing eviction down the road because of the current COVID crisis, that would give us one sense of where to put that money. But if we see there's going to be 500 families facing some kind of dire circumstances, of course, that would be quite different. So, this is our problem, is trying to get a handle on what the problems actually are so that we can find the right solutions.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. This is Mike Gilliard. Thank you for clarifying. I do not have a good data set on what the circumstances currently are in Kingston that have been affected by the COVID-19 crisis. If you could direct me or others could direct me to resources or guide me in the right direction, I'd be happy to pursue it further, but I don't have a data point to offer you about what's changed recently.
Okay, well, these are the sorts of things that we hope we'll be able to develop over time. There's Pattern for Progress has done a lot of work. They're in the process of a study right now, the number of vacant properties in Kingston. This is one of the things we've looked at in terms of trying to increase housing, seeing how many vacant properties there are and how many of those we could actually turn into usable housing, and what kind of resources that would require, what kind of time frame we're looking at. There's also all the census data. The county has certain data, but sometimes it's hard to disaggregate that in terms of what is specific to Kingston. And of course, we've got a lot of qualitative evidence of people who call us and say that they are facing an extreme rent hike. We were going through this in an acute fashion at the beginning of this year because a couple of local large property owners were really pushing rent increases for all kinds of reasons.
This is Mike Gilliard. I look forward to learning more about it and contributing in the best that I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. We understand that you're at the beginning of this job, and there's a lot to it. So we appreciate your coming out, even if it was virtually. Don, Michelle, anything else you'd like to ask Michael?
Michael, can you create more land?
I'll look. This is Mike Gilliard. I'll look in the Hudson and see what I can tell you.
Thank you.
Rennie Scott Childress here. Yes, since we are originally a Dutch colony, I understand there might be some models to follow from the Dutch in terms of creating new land.
Dykes.
All right. Okay, well, thanks for coming out, Michael. Oh, Michelle's got a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to say thank you. It's Michelle Hirsch, Alderman Hirsch. Thank you for coming tonight, and good luck.
Thank you. Mike Gilliard, my pleasure. Thank you.
Great. See you later then, Mike. Okay, well, as far as I can see here, our other potential guest, Benjamin O'Shea, has not made it. Benjamin is with the Kingston Housing Authority, he's the executive director over there. And we were hoping to get some information from him about what it is that the KHA does, how they provide their housing, what kind of support they get from the federal government, what kind of support they get from state governments. They have different structures for their housing. So one set of housing is federally supported, another is state supported. They also manage property, and they also own a nonprofit, which is Stuyvesant Charter. So we're hoping to talk to him about some possibilities for expanding what KHA does. There's the possibility of building some extra units on the Stuyvesant Charter property. There's also the potential for looking at other properties into which KHA might be able to expand, but we will have to leave that until our next meeting. So on the agenda for tonight too was a discussion amongst us about the CARES money and looking at strategies for thinking about how to use that, particularly in terms of housing. So I'll open up the floor then for any discussion, the ideas that folks have. For that, I've gotten a little bit of information about the folks who have applied for that money. So no surprise probably that the applications total a lot more money than what we've actually got to offer. So Michelle, Don, any ideas?
Well, this is Don. Kevin O'Connor making it clear on our last meeting that the best use would be for rental assistance. And that seems to me to be spot on. I don't, that we could do that, correct? That this money could be directed to rental assistance?
Yes, and of course, the RUPCO has applied, as has Family of Woodstock. And so both of those might be, we haven't seen the application specifically yet, or at least I haven't. I don't know if either of you have, but it's very possible that Family is talking about both food and housing. So we'll need to look at their application in particular. And I mean, there's other entities that have also applied. So there may be other housing related proposals.
Okay. I don't have another idea. I mean, the people, these organizations will be applying and will be providing ideas for use of it to help with our housing, I assume, yes?
Yes, Rennie Scott Childress here. Yes, they will be. But some of the thinking that we might want to, consider is, for example, are we going to put the major emphasis on people who are at the low end of the income scale? Are we going to look at trying to create or maintain stable neighborhoods, which might mean putting some money toward property taxes as opposed to rental assistance? There's also just the question of the balance between providing food as opposed to or along with providing housing. These are some of the dynamics that we're going to have to look at. There's also the question of particular businesses. Do we work to keep business property owners in place as well?
Interesting. Michelle?
Michelle Hirsch here. I wanted to say I actually got a call from a small local business, and he was saying that he was wondering, he read the news and wondering if, the possible voucher that we would create with the, that we're discussing with the legislation last week, 2 weeks ago, if that would apply to also for help for small businesses. And I asked him if he had applied for the PPE, and he said he wasn't eligible because he didn't make a, I'm sorry, I'm really tired. I've been online all day. He didn't make a profit. His business didn't make a profit, so he was not entitled to help through the PPE grant for small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if that is another area we could look into. For small
Rennie Scott Childress, one of the dilemmas that I've felt so far is we haven't gotten a very clear directive that I've seen, at least, from the from HUD about what are the parameters for how we can use the money. I mean, clearly it's got to be related to the current crisis, but I think that that's something we definitely want to consider. How do we help folks stay in business as well as keep people in their homes and keep them fed?
But this is Don. But the business, while I would love to help small businessmen, this money was, our committee is about housing. So, isn't stepping into supporting business outside of the purview of our committee?
Well, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't tie that in very well. He was inquiring if he would have access to funds if he was being evicted as a small business owner. So he was just reaching out regarding evictions.
Okay. This is Don Tolman. Rennie, the notion of tax relief seems to me to be, that would be difficult, right? To figure out an equitable allocation. And I'm not sure how we would know that we're helping the people that need the help.
Right. So this is Rennie Scott Childress. One of the strategies then would be to say that we would make the point when we're in our other committees that we think that this money should go to help those who are at the lowest rung of the housing scale, and that our strategy would be to help, moving up that scale as much as we can. Again, this is part of the problem, is trying to figure out if there's relatively few people who actually are in need of rental assistance, that means that we can follow a different strategy, put more of our funds eventually into food. If it turns out there's hundreds and hundreds of families that are facing some kind of housing insecurity because of the crisis, that gives us a different sense of what to do.
Right, but okay, so this is Don Tolman. So how would you identify what you described as the lowest rung of needy? I would, there may be people that have a job, but for whatever reason, or they can't afford to pay their rent, and they wouldn't, because of their income, maybe they wouldn't be defined as the lowest rung, but their need would be potentially more critical than someone who's very poor and has almost no income.
Mm-hmm.
If we can identify people who are about to be evicted, let's say we had a hotline, are you afraid of being evicted? Call this number, you may qualify for some rental assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a series of qualifying questions that determine whether they would qualify. But yeah, I think, someone who's about to lose their home is worthy of helping, for whatever the reason and whatever their rung on the ladder of anything.
Right. So then, this is Rennie Scott Childress. That the other part here is to think about the escrow account that we've talked about in the past that Michelle brought up, that would be associated with the housing court. And this would be a fund that would have some money available to help folks who are at the very last stretch of the eviction process or actually facing eviction. So then, again, this would be a request that we would have to make because we would then be one of the applicants in the process for the CARES money. So, we would be asking for some money along with RUPCO, along with Family of Woodstock and the other entities that are asking for money.
So it's just Don Tolman. I like that. It just sounds heavily bureaucratic and not very quick turnaround for someone who needs a check by Thursday,
Right. So this is Rennie Scott Childress. So then there might be other ways of raising that money. So, again, this is the thing we want to talk out. If we like the idea of creating this backup fund, it's not necessary that the CARES money go to it unless we feel like this is something that could become a big issue very quickly. And as we've understood from various folks, actual evictions stemming from the COVID crisis, or at least ones that go through the regular process through the court, those will probably not be an issue until later in the fall or perhaps even later. I have sent in questions along these lines to the New York State Court to try to get a better handle on what processes they're looking at, what kind of values that they're going to act on as they reopen, when they reopen. But they've got to be very careful in how they answer. So we're waiting still to get those responses. Yes, Michelle.
Peter Frank from the Hudson Valley Legal Services is really very much in touch with the pulse of Kingston Housing Court and evictions here in Kingston, and he might be, a great guest to come in and speak on the issue and what he could even think of projections of what it's going to look like.
Would you be comfortable inviting him to our next meeting?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we understand that he may be a little, he can at least help us with the process,
mm-hmm.
Right? But we wouldn't get into any cases or so forth. All right. So the 26th is then when we're going to be considering the CARES money. Is that right, President Schott? Can I interrupt you for a second? 26th. Okay. So today, so that would be, usually we meet every 2 weeks, or that's the schedule we've talked about. So we would not have another meeting before that 26th, before the 26th. So, but at the very least, I think we can chew on these ideas, think them through, and try to understand, look at any sources that we have, and then share those as we can with the other members of the the Community Development Committee, because it's hard enough to figure out, you know, it's difficult to be deciding who gets how much money. So the more information, the better background we can give them. I think they'll be beneficial. Yes, Michelle.
Michelle Hirsch here. I was also going to reach out to someone from Tompkins County Legislature. They are creating a fund as well with community block development money. So I wanted to see what they looked like, what their stuff looked like.
Great. Okay, so if you can share that with us, that would be great.
They also passed Senator Kavanaugh's memorializing resolution in support of his voucher.
Okay.
So.
Well, if we want to introduce that, I've got something I could send it to you. You could, you know, look it over, see what you think, and then submit it.
Okay.
If you'd like to do that. So the other thing that we want to talk about sometime soon is short-term rental. And, you know, this would be a good time to really look closely at that, since it's pretty clear that short-term rentals are not going to be a big issue in the next couple of months, unfortunately. I mean, so I think then for the next meeting, I'll put that on the agenda as something for us to look at. We've had some information from the county planner, Dennis Doyle. I'll see if I can collect, I believe it's 5 municipalities in Ulster that have passed different legislation relating to short-term rentals. And I'll try to get those to you so that at our next meeting, that'll be something on the agenda. Are there other items that you all would like to put on the agenda for the next meeting?
No, I was wanting to really talk about the short-term housing.
Okay.
So forward to that, but maybe we can, this question, Rennie, can wait until next time, but I would love to hear the best background for, you know, this is, the county has been looking at this, different municipalities have been looking at this. I think we just need to be prepared by reading a background piece, and Dennis Doyle's presentation, that was really good. So that, I remember seeing that. But if we decide to have a 1% or 2% tax on that, that's something that would go up to the council. Is that how that would proceed?
Yeah, we would have to write up legislation for that.
Okay.
And that would be the question. You know, there's several different dynamics that we'll need to discuss. And I think that if I remember right, the 5 municipalities that have passed short-term rental legislation, I think they're quite different.
Okay.
You know, they're trying to accomplish different things.
Rennie?
And it's also, yes.
Rennie, this is Benjamin.
Oh, there's Benjamin. Hello,
you know,
Benjamin.
Rennie, I have been here all along, listening, and there was a problem with the mute on the system. I got a different phone, so but I've heard the whole conversation since just after 6.
Oh, good. Okay, well then let me introduce you. We've got 20 minutes, which I think will be just about the right amount of time to talk with you. So everyone, this is Rennie Scott Childress, and I'm introducing Benjamin O'Shea, who's the Executive Director of the Kingston Housing Authority. He's been with them for quite a number of years now. And we're interested in having Benjamin come and talk to us in a general sense about what it is that the Kingston Housing Authority provides in terms of housing. We'd like to understand a little bit better what the distinctions are between Stuyvesant Charter, Brigham Houses, Colonial Gardens, and Rondout Gardens. And so with us tonight, Benjamin, I don't know if you can see, but we have the other 2 members of the subcommittee, Michelle Hirsch and Don Tollerman. So what I'd like to do is ask for you to just give us a general overview first of what Kingston Housing Authority provides in terms of housing. And then we'll open up the floor to Don and Michelle to ask you any questions that they might have. Does that sound okay?
Certainly, and I will do my best. I'm 2.5 years with the Housing Authority, and not that long as the executive director. If I don't have the answer to your question, I can certainly get it for you and get back to you.
Great, thank you. So if you would then just give us the general overview.
Okay, so the Kingston Housing Authority began its formation in 1948, and it's been around a long time. If I were to explain the structure of the Housing Authority, it is associated with but independent of the city. It is the purpose of the Kingston Housing Authority. It was formed so that the city of Kingston, so that the citizens of the city of Kingston did not have to use, or the city of Kingston did not have to levy taxes to provide safe and affordable housing for the citizens of the city of Kingston. Let me say that the city of, I'm sorry, the Kingston Housing Authority is funded by federal and state funds, and it pays taxes to the city of Kingston, to the city of Kingston also. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Kingston has 5 members that are appointed by the mayor, and 2 that are elected tenant reps. So I would say that the Kingston Housing Authority has in its inventory 481 units that it rents. I'd say, and we also carry, we have 180 Section 8 vouchers. So if my math is correct, 480 and 180 is about 660 housing units that the Kingston Housing Authority is providing. And we manage 5 complexes. Of those 6 complexes. Rondout Gardens, there's 131 units. The units range from efficiencies 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms that house. There's a senior section and a family section. I would say Colonial Gardens has 98 units. That's predominantly family-oriented units. There is, I think, about 16 senior housing units there. Stuyvesant Charter is 120 units that, again, is mixed between seniors and families. Colonial Gardens Addition has 36 units that are seniors. Wiltwick Gardens is 60, that is seniors, and we don't own, but we manage Brigham Senior Housing, which is 40 units. So, in our renting of the units, everything that we do has to conform to federal and state regulations and protocols in how that we do everything. So with that as a basic backdrop, I'm gonna just say no more until you ask me some questions.
All right. Then Don Tollerman, you've got a question?
Hi, this is Don Tollerman. I've got a thank you. Do you go by Ben? Is that right?
Ben or Benjamin.
Okay. Thank you. Too bad we couldn't meet in person, but I'm sure that
Yes.
soon we can.
Sometime.
So I've gotten to visit most of the facilities doing food delivery. So
Okay.
I have a good sense of the different facilities, and I think it's incredible that the city has them. I'm not sure how we compare to other cities in our state, but aside from New York City, New York City Housing Authority, I wasn't aware that a city of our size would have such a robust housing authority. So it's great. However, I noticed that there seems to be a fair amount of deferred maintenance. And I wonder if you have a sense of how much deferred maintenance there is and how critical or how bad a situation or some of the facility, or maybe it's not so bad. If you could give us a sense of the state of repair or disrepair of the housing.
So let me take it complex by complex. Stuyvesant Charter. Well, let me say let me just say a general overview. I would say we have aged infrastructure. You know, for decades it has been let go. There, you know, you're absolutely correct in your sense about you know, the state and the federal funding for modernization has not been there, and in anyway, there's a lot of discussion to be had around the whys with regard to that. But let me just say, let me begin with Colonial Gardens. At Colonial Gardens, we are 80% complete in terms of an interior modernization. Units have been are being upgraded 6 at a time, and we move residents out into swing units. And then the units are gutted down to the studs, and they're, you know, new floors, new kitchens, cabinets, bathtubs, plumbing. The electrical issues are addressed. The electrical was done a couple of years ago, but new wiring for the kitchens and bathrooms. But the units are being refurbished, and we're 80% of the way through that. There is, I'm just waiting for the state to give me the okay to replace the roofs at Colonial Garden Addition and Wiltwick Garden. They have all but approved over a $2 million grant to do the roofs. I am in the process of getting what's called an IPNA, that's a integrated physical needs assessment for the remaining issues that exist at Colonial, which would be the sewer lines need to be upgraded, as does the gas supply line. They're original and they are aged and need to be addressed.
Ben,
also,
I can interrupt for a minute because I know we have limited time, and I don't want I think this was a big question and a big answer, so maybe we can address it another time to go through each one. I guess I'm most concerned with, are any of the developments in critical need, like ready to fall apart, unhealthy, mold, are there any really bad issues that we should be aware of?
Let me say, Stuyvesant Charter is in poor condition. However, we have just signed a memorandum of agreement with a developer that's going to be upgrading everything to give the complex a new 30-year lifespan.
Are you able to share the name of the developer?
Yes, it's Montco Construction and Development Corporation.
Montco.
Yes.
Are they local?
They are a New York company. They're out of Scarsdale.
Okay.
But they've done a lot of complexes from southern New York and New York City, but up to Albany.
Okay, so the worst of our problems are being handled, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. And then there are other big things on the horizon, with HUD wanting to do a streamlined voluntary conversion for all of the what's called public housing units. That would be all of Rondout Gardens, 131 units, and the 25 public housing units that are at Stuyvesant, and six that are at Brigham. But HUD is wanting to convert all of its units to Section 8, Section 8 voucher-based units, and that will release significant funding to do the capital improvements that are needed at Colonial Gardens, and there are, there is funding that is coming, that is starting to flow for the state sites. That would be Colonial, the Addition, and Colonial Garden Addition, and Wiltwick.
Okay, I have a question about the tenants. So they're Section 8, but if someone is Section 8, they get a job, do they leave? Like, once someone is in our public housing, is there turnover? Do they leave and move on to something better for them, or is there?
Well, so there are two types of Section 8 voucher. There's project-based, and then there's what's called an enhanced voucher. The enhanced voucher, which is the way things are going, allows the tenant the choice, the option. I think once the voucher is given to them for a particular site, they have to stay there for a year, but then they can take it to Florida if they wish. So,
what's the reality? Do people leave and open up opportunities for other people to take the spaces, or are people generally?
Yes, no. Generally, I would say the general turnover is like in the Kingston Housing Authority. I would say, the turnover. I'd say, I'm trying to put a percentage on it. I mean, maybe they say 4% of people in senior complexes die every year. And, so there is that kind of, people die, people move on to nursing homes. Younger people, someone will get a job somewhere and they want to move on. That happens all the.
You find out the turnover rate, the non-senior turnover rate?
I can, yes. I don't have it at my fingertips, but yes.
And I'm curious, I understand that there is potential for new house. So some of the sites may have some land that we can develop new housing on. Is that true?
Yes. So in this memorandum of agreement that we've done with Monco, we have included this parcel that is part of the Stuyvesant site that has the potential to build an additional 36 units. Then there's, and let me say, there is some land behind the Wiltwick Gardens. When I look at the plot map for or the survey for Wiltwick Gardens, but I don't know if the land is swampy or not, but but there is a whole tract of land back behind Wiltwick Gardens. And also, the Housing Authority is open to partner with any developer, and of course, it's contingent upon the desire of the board. But I believe that the will is there for, if there is land available, and the Kingston Housing Authority is very happy to partner and to expand the inventory of safe and affordable housing. That's what we are about.
Okay. I have another question, if I can ask. This is Don Tollerman again.
Sure. Sure.
I heard that there is some frustration about the contractor in terms of other contractors or developers being allowed to compete for the contracts. How is that? How do you put out? Is it just an RFP and then people respond and you go lowest bid, or how is that process?
No, we did in this case, and this was with on the advice of counsel. We posted an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and this was last September or October, I believe. A copy of that was sent, was posted in the newspaper, sent to the city, and there was a site orientation. 18 individuals showed up. From that, we received 4 proposals. The proposals were graded, and a recommendation was made to the Board of Commissioners. There was specific criteria concerning management, concerning finances, concerning women and minorities, concerning Section 3, which is the hiring locally, and and so that that process was the process that was set out. That was the process that was followed, and I was part of that process. I was involved in all of the interviews, and the best contractor with the best deal prevailed.
Okay, thank you.
So there may be some frustration, there may be some, but in these things, there's a winner, there's a loser.
Sorry, if we could, Michelle Hirsch has some questions, Ben, so we're close to the time here. So if we can flip to Michelle and the questions she has.
Hi, this is Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. Nice to meet you, Ben.
Nice to meet you.
We've been, part of our work has been focusing on how to respond to renters. And once the eviction moratoriums are lifted. And
Yeah.
I had read in the paper that the CARES Act awarded the KHA $33,654 for tenant rental assistance. And I'm just curious to know anything you could say about that, what that looks like, how many of the 481 tenants are possibly in distress that may need to access that. I know it's not a lot of money. It comes out to about $70 an apartment if everyone needs to access it. So
right.
I'm curious if you could speak to that a little bit. We try to make decisions ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah. So I have been seeking guidance with regard to how those funds can be used, and the direction that I received is that the funds can be used for COVID-related items. So, for example, face masks, cleaning materials, could be used for overtime, for disinfecting, but there was no guidance with regard to using funds to help residents with rent payments. So, just my sense, and I haven't done any kind of in-depth analysis, but I think rent collections, rent roll is down maybe 6 to 10%. And we are abiding by the moratorium for non-payment of rent. But, what I've been hearing from HUD and from the state is the moratorium on evictions does not mean a moratorium on not paying your rent. So, so rent is not a part of that as far as I know at this time. So we have been distributing face masks and things like that. And this just began last week. So if anyone has any ideas, we would be very happy to consider those ideas. And if I get authorized to proceed with that kind of an expenditure, that's great.
Great. Yes, Michelle.
And I'm sorry. Let me just say, and we have until December to utilize these funds. But it's very narrow what we can use them for. It's not a broad, and this is in talking to the Kingston Housing Authority accountant and consultant. So, yes, that's my understanding of my limited understanding of what we're allowed to utilize those funds for.
Okay, great. Michelle?
This is Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch again. So there's been a lot of confusion between the two eviction moratorium dates. We have a federal eviction moratorium date of July 25th, and now we have a New York State eviction moratorium till August 20th. And I'm curious if the Kingston Housing Authority would be following the federal date or this New York's date.
Yeah. Probably on that, I would have to get legal counsel. We usually, I'm inclined to think that we will be going with the state. That's just, and there's not much of a difference. But like we have, like one case that I'm aware of where the individual hasn't paid rent for more than 6 months, and and was due to be evicted, and got a break in one sense by because of the COVID-19, and so it's not non-collection of rent does cause a burden, but I don't know that there's going to be any kind of amnesty for rent at this point, or if the housing authority will get reimbursed for COVID-related non-payment of rent. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Well, Ben, we really appreciate your taking part tonight. Glad you're able to figure out the technology. We're all with this electronic dance these days with these new forms of communication, or rather expanding forms of communication. So I hope too that you will be available in future as we're thinking through the issues that Kingston is facing relating to housing. And I know that we'll have some more questions, and we'll be interested in talking to you further in some way, shape, or form here in the coming weeks. So again, thank you very much for your participation, and we'll talk to you soon.
I would be delighted. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Night.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good. I was glad we were able to hear that. So that gives us another set of potential resources there. This idea that the Kingston Housing Authority might be able to develop other housing units on its current properties. But another thing I think that we might want to look into is to see if there were other ways of developing properties that the Kingston Housing Authority would then manage, something along the lines of what they do with Brigham houses right now. So any last comments from anyone?
This is Don. Rennie, which he mentioned that there may be some land behind Willowick Gardens. What I remember, was there another one he mentioned there may be?
Stuyvesant Charter.
Where?
Stuyvesant Charter.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know where that one is?
No, I'll look it up.
It's behind Colonial Gardens. It's a little confusing. So it's when you're there, it's hard to tell that you've actually passed from one into the other. Okay. But if you go to the rear and to the right there, you'll see that there's a section of unoccupied land back there.
Okay. And what was the one you just said that we manage but don't own?
Brigham houses.
Where are they?
That's on, is it O'Neill? It's close to Boyce's Dairy. It's a couple blocks up from Boyce's Dairy going away from Broadway.
Okay.
And that's elder housing.
Okay.
Senior housing, I think, is what it is. Yeah. So I'm not sure actually who owns that one, but any other questions?
God bless you, Andrea.
That was a silent sneeze.
No,
any other questions?
Thank you very much, Rennie and Michelle and Andrea, for organizing.
All right, so the last thing then is to think about if we wanted to keep on this schedule every 2 weeks at 6 o'clock, that would put us, I think the next meeting would then be March 28th, Thursday the 28th, and then June 11th.
Okay.
I mean, we could also go ahead and pencil in June 25th to get us through the month of June.
I'm not sure that how long we'll need to do it every 2 weeks.
Okay.
If we run out of speakers, we may just want to have it every month, but So I'll pencil in the 11th right now, along with the 28th.
Okay. Yes, Michelle, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I was listening to County Executive Pat Ryan's press conference today, and he was speaking about the housing issues here in the county, and wanted to start addressing them because he was realizing how much he's hearing a lot from frontline workers and people in the community that they're experiencing housing issues, and he was going to be going to the county legislators to work on a few things. So it might be great for us to reach out and see what's going on there.
Well, I know.
Oh, go ahead, Don.
So this is Don. So I know that they're really looking to redevelop the prison facility up on Golden Hill. And I've been trying to make them aware. So a colleague of mine is friends with a landowner that has about 15 acres directly adjacent to the jail that could be included, that the county should be looking at the same time. And I was about to meet with Pat Ryan and his office to make sure that that was on their radar, but then COVID hit. I would just hate for them to, it's just a simple connection, but it's not so easy to make sure it's on their radar to say, well, their project could be bigger than they think because there is this available land directly adjacent. So if you have any suggestions to how to get through to, I mentioned this to Steve, who said he'd bring it up with Pat. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but just so you guys hear that, that exists.
Oh, that's great. So, Michelle, I'm wondering, do you know specifically who in the Ryan administration is addressing housing issues, or is it a coterie of folks?
He just mentioned that that he was going to the legislature. So, we can reach out to Dave Donaldson.
Okay, I'll take care of that then, trying to find out who that is and see if we can invite that person or some representative from the Ryan administration to speak to us at the next meeting.
Oh, that's a great idea.
You'll reach out to Peter Frank?
Correct.
Okay, so if you'll let me know as soon as possible. And then I'd like to put the next agenda up within the next week. So if we've got the one thing dealing with short-term housing, we've got 2 potential guests. But if anything else comes up that you all want to talk about, let me know so we can put it on the agenda. Yes, Tom.
I asked Steve, is there any other land? And he did mention that there is 15 acres along the thruway off of Hurley Avenue. And so I brought that to the attention of Michael Alliard. It's challenging because it's not right off of a road. You'd have to sort of take I'm not clear. You may have to take over one house to access this 15 acres. And I don't know if it's rock or if it's good dirt to build on. But anyway, the mayor said the city took it over in a lien, tax lien some time ago, and 15 acres is a lot. It's off of Fairview Avenue back there. So if you're going up Hurley Avenue, really just before you hit the thruway, you take a left into the neighborhood there. It's over there. So maybe put that on the agenda for next, I'll do a screenshot of it and we can talk about how to, see if that's developable for us.
All right. So you'll send me then, are you going to send me something or should I just write that?
I just put that at the agenda and then I'll share with you a screenshot of it for next meeting. It's just I don't know if it's feasible. I guess this is the type of thing where it's great to have a Michael. Is it Alliard? Because Gilliard, okay. Because someone has to sort of say, well, here's 15 acres, the city owns it. Could this be developed? Let's bring in a landscape architect, or let's bring in, environmental person to see if it, in other words, someone has to sort of wrap their head around it, and I'm not sure what the process would be for that. Maybe it's a non-starter because it's all rock and you can't, build on it. or maybe it's great, you know, someone,
Yeah.
I don't know. But the mayor just gave me a heads up that it's city owned, 15 acres. That's, you know, there's trees on it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll put that on the agenda then as a potential thing to talk about for next week, next meeting. 2 weeks from tonight, we've got 2 meetings then that we've got scheduled on the 28th and then the 11th of June. Same time. Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rennie, I want to add, remember I was talking about that property by Chateau, formerly Lawton Park, as the
Yeah.
best site to try to do something with.
Uh-huh.
So just to let you guys know, I've spoken to Michael about that, and hopefully he's going to lead that charge. You know, that land is owned by some partners who are in Texas, but they are willing to develop it. So, you know, that's why that was the #1 property that I was going after. But again, that's, you know, we need someone like Michael to take the reins.
Great. Okay. I'm glad to hear that. All right then. Well, we're past our time, and so I think we've had two good folks to talk to. A lot of more questions we're developing, and then we will be looking at short-term rental housing next time and the potential property for development off of Fairview Avenue, and we'll look at having 2 more guests that night. Okay. Anything
Okay.
else?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking part and pushing this forward. And we will be talking very soon.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.